Welcome to the Paris International Film Festival's Q&A session. I'm writer-producer Jeff Riviera, the host of today's Q&A with the filmmakers behind the brilliant Surviving Silence. Please be aware that in our short Q&A session, there may be spoilers. Today, we are speaking to, in no particular order, filmmaker Cindy Abel, Colonel Greta, Colonel Pat, as well as Barbara Brass. So this is such a special film. So somehow you managed to take such a serious topic and turn into an engaging story, such as the cigarette story that the Colonel mentions toward the beginning of the film. And by the way, you wrapped it up with such hope that things are getting a lot better for the LGBT community, especially those in the military, in such a remarkable way. So my first question for you, Cindy, is for those who have not seen the film yet, could you briefly describe it and why they should stop what they're doing right now and check it out?
Sure. Bonjour Paris, bonjour tout le monde. Je suis très contente d'être avec vous et j'espère que vous allez regarder notre film. Et pourquoi le regarder? Because it's a love story. It's a love story that also reveals unknown history, and it shows the type of integrity and passion for doing the right thing. And it also shows that overall love does win. It might take a long time to get there, but love does win.
I love that. I love the film so much. And I loved the interaction, especially with Barbara and also the Colonel, about how they met and they didn't quite get along great, right? It was a spark right from the beginning, and it eventually turned into a love story that is, live to this day. I do want to ask a question to Pat and both of the Colonels. Why have this story told? Why was it important to you to have this story told to the world?
Well, for me, it was for history, for those who come after us, so that they will know what our struggles were.
And what would you say? Why was it important to you, Greta?
Well, it sort of filled in the blanks, so that this really tells sort of the rest of the story. My own story with Serving in Silence was started 30 years ago, and and at that time, being gay was, we were vilified. It was dangerous to be around us. We were contagious, or either in terms of illness or whatever others were defining us as. And so my own first film, the Serving in Silence, was trying to demystify who we were, but there was so much more behind that. And, I didn't even know that Pat was a lesbian at the time she was president of my board, and I was discharged. So it's an opportunity to, I guess, be the bookends for a very important story.
I love that. Let's talk to Colonel Pat. Why was this important?
Well, it was important, as Greta says, to tell her story. And the part that I played in her story, I didn't know at the time how important the part I was playing was until later. And I was pleased to learn that it was, that I had done some things right. So I'm so glad that things turned out well for her and she got reinstated.
Right. And Barbara?
Well, I also, the same thing. Pat needed to heal from that her very painful experience that she went through, being on the board and having to dismiss Colonel Cammermeyer 30 years ago. So yeah, it took her a long time to heal, and having this was an extra added way to do that. I think the healing had started prior to now, a number of years ago, but it's probably more complete now than it has been. And I also felt, and taking the perspective of a love story, which is what we've been living for 36 and a half years. So yeah, it's important that we are role models for those who may think that they can't do this sort of thing, that it's not possible. So all of us, Colonel Cammermeyer, as well as the two of us, are role models for a long-lived relationship.
I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to be there, but I had to. And so I'm glad that things turned out as well as they did.
This film really was about, for me, forgiveness, for about courage. And it was a testament to a lot of the struggles that people are still having now who are a part of the LGBT community, who still haven't come out of the closet, especially if they're in the military or some kind of career where it's really a challenge to do so. So for me, I thought that this film really showed a lot of courage and showed an example for those who need to come into the closet, but also for the challenges of why it's so difficult, to do so.
Yeah, during the last administration, things were not good for LGBTQ and also especially for our trans brothers and sisters. But with the new administration, we're hoping, have a lot of hope in our heart, and we think that things will get better.
Absolutely. My last question is actually for Cindy. And the question is, what challenges did you face making this film?
Every indie filmmaker says this, but it's the truth. It's funding. The story was there. It was right in front of me. I first fell in love with their love story, because how do you stay together for 30 years, period, let alone when you have to pretend in many situations that you're not together. And so that's what was fascinating to me. And then when I heard about the relationship to Colonel Cammermeyer's story, and she had long been a hero of mine, I thought, whoa, why doesn't anybody know this? And, when we see something that needs to be done, when there's something that needs to be said, it befalls us, I believe, to be the one to say it or to bring it forward. And so we just started filming. I have a wonderful director of photography who's also our editor, Michael Bruno, and a second cameraman, Jesse Freeman. And we just all went and stayed at Colonel Pat and Barbara's house and started filming and started doing these interviews and raised the funds along the way. And that is, I would think, the most challenging from the business side of it, if you will. There's always the business side and the artistic side. And on the artistic side, it was really drilling down to how do we tell this story in a way that isn't just, and then this happened and blah, blah, blah. And so it was crafting it into a more traditional narrative outline, if you will, where there's, yes, a beginning, middle, and end, but there's also the hero's journey, and Colonel Pat was our hero, strongly supported by her wife, and we get to see the ups and downs in their relationship and the ups and downs in their careers. And then we introduce a new person and show the ups and downs and the journey that goes through all of that. And in the end, how all of them are out, all of them are proud torchbearers, if you will, talking about what it means to be part of this community, first in the shadows and then in the daylight. And also the work that was done in the shadows is what facilitated the work that was done in the daylight. If Colonel Thompson had not done what she had done behind the scenes, Colonel Cammermeyer, at least according to her and to her attorney, Mary Newcomb, in all likelihood would never have been reinstated. And then she wouldn't have been able to play the role that she played in leading to the eventual dismantling. So putting all of those things together in a hopefully more interesting type outline following the narrative model, that was the secondary one. How to bring this together, how to make history where we already know the outcome. So how do we show something that has a bit of mystery to it and keeps the audience glued to their computer screen at this point? So You know, artistically and from a business perspective, there were challenges, but every step along the way, you know, Barb and Pat made themselves available. Greta made herself available. You know, we have the former Secretary of the Army, Eric Fanning, who made himself available. Greta's attorney, Mary Newcomb, it's the same thing, you know, because they believed that this story needed to be told for history's sake, and also as an example of the type of fierce love and passion that we need to have for ourselves, for our community, and for our country. And so everyone was all in to make this movie.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. And thank you to all the viewers for today. Once again, my name is Jeff Riviera, writer, producer, and also juror for this year's 2021 Paris International Film Festival. Thank you for joining us.